Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Today I'd like to talk about something that's kind of heavy, but it's also very important, and we've been touching on it a lot lately. How a blend of manipulation, lies, and victim playing can be used to control a narrative. Specifically, I'll be looking at Foodie Beauty, not because she's unique or special in any way, although she is an anomaly, but because she's a very public example of how someone can paint themselves as a victim of domestic violence while at the same time exploiting and abusing their own partners and everyone else around them in their orbit. I'd like to emphasize that this isn't about dismissing real survivors, and I know we have many of them in our community, and each of you has my full support in your healing. Those stories are valid, they're important, and they deserve protection. Rather, this is about recognizing the patterns of manipulation that make people question what is real. One of the most common tools manipulators like Foodie Beauty use is the victim narrative. We've seen her accuse her partners of threatening her, hurting her, or putting her in some kind of danger. She has made many claims over the years, with each claim getting a little bit more and more wild as time goes on. And yet, without fail, within a day or two, she'll flip the script completely, suddenly defending that same person she claimed was so dangerous, often just hours before. She insists that no one should speak badly about them, often blocking and raging at anyone who doesn't follow her twisted narrative minute by minute. She then spins the narrative to recenter herself as the one in control, and that's exactly where she wants to be. It's the place where she feels the most comfortable, and we all know what Foodie is like when she's uncomfortable. That back and forth between being fearful and abused to fiercely protecting her alleged abusers is not typical of survivors who are genuinely seeking safety. But however, it is typical of someone who is using the victim role as a shield, especially when their real goal is money, sympathy, and attention. Now, let's talk about the power dynamic that we've been seeing lately. On the surface, Foodie often presents herself as weak or dependent on her men. She took a lot of pains over the years to paint herself as this changed and reverted traditional housewife. It kept the less intelligent members of her community fooled for a few years. But finding herself knee-deep in Salah's family in Syria pushed that traditional Muslim housewife notion and tested its veracity. Suddenly, she couldn't hole herself away in some fart box in the sky, but rather, now she has to learn how to become a tradwife overnight because she had only been pretending and had no idea what it actually meant to be a housewife. Looking more closely at the situation since she arrived in Syria, the power dynamic has been flipped on its head. She's the one with access to money. She is the one with an online income stream. She is the one who dangles the promise of a better life, of citizenship, or financial stability over men's heads. Lest we forget, Salah is not the only man she has abused with her money. These men, who often have little income, few job prospects, and limited options, are actually in the vulnerable position. Foodie uses that imbalance to her advantage. She pays for pretty much everything, and then she reminds those people that she pays for everything. That's not love, nor is it support. That is financial control. And financial control is absolutely a form of abuse. Foodie has been using this specific form of abuse for years. Now, here's how the cycle of financial abuse usually plays out. First, there's an accusation. Foodie will claim her partner has hurt her or threatened her in some way. Again, we could go through a litany of examples across multiple relationships, but let's just focus on the current situation. If anything happens to me, it was them. And by that, I mean a week ago, Foodie wept for her miserable life on a live stream, claiming she feared for her life and that Salah and his family were going to murder her. You heard me right. She came online to say her husband and his family We're going to kill her.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella.
Which brings us to the second phase, which is the redemption phase. Within hours, she flips and insists the man she accused of threatening her life the day before is actually a good man who loves her. She even went so far to bend over backwards, so to speak, to be extra mushy and lovey-dovey to him the next day. She then informed the same people who helplessly listened to her that they were not to say a bad word about him or his family going forward. Do we have whiplash yet? The third phase is dependency. She frames herself as the one who sacrificed everything for him while making it clear that he can't survive without her money. She says she has changed everything about herself, while Salah has not changed anything about his lifestyle to accommodate her. His grocery bills and electricity bills might tell a different story, but let's continue. Finally, we come to the real reason for all the tears and all the drama. It's the monetization phase. Foodie uses the drama to grift off her audience. Crying streams, emergency flights, pleas for donations. The sheer amount of money she has begged her audience to pony up has reached over $10,000, and that's just in this latest grift alone. $10,000. Let that amount sink in. And now, because she's pulled the same, I have to leave sooner, the sense of urgency becomes even greater, which puts even more pressure on her audience to give her money quickly. While the rest of us just sit in abject horror and fascination as these fools throw her money, we know that the gravy train won't last forever. However, it is important to note the old adage, there's an idiot born every single minute. Every stage of this is carefully crafted to keep her in control while still appearing to be the victim. Although she bumbles through every stage like a baby taking its first steps, we must all be clairvoyant because we all simply know how to correctly predict her next move before she even announces it. So why does any of this matter in the grand scheme of things? First, it disrespects real survivors of domestic violence. When false or exaggerated claims are made and then walked back for attention or money, it creates doubt and stigma around the stories of people who actually are in danger. Having met and gotten to know so many of you in this community, I know the issue of domestic violence is a particularly important topic in this space. This is why actual DV survivors must speak up when there's a phony in their midst. Victims are so often ignored, doubted, or are made to feel unimportant. And when someone comes along cosplaying as a victim, as Foodie does, our spidey senses start tingling. And they're a-tingling, fellas. Second, it exposes a different kind of abuse, one that often doesn't get enough attention, which is financial exploitation. Foodie is not the powerless one in these relationships, both romantic with Salah and platonic with Pete's in the dishwasher. She's the one holding the purse strings, and she uses that power to keep her partners dependent on her. We see it in the way she uses her paying for everything as quote-unquote taking care of the man in that situationship. Throwing money at a problem is all she knows, when she can afford it. So the next time we see Foodie crying on a live stream, insisting she's in danger one moment and defending her abuser the next, take a step back. Look at the bigger picture. Who really has the power here? Who's controlling the money? And who benefits from the chaos? What does it do for Salah when his behemoth of a housemate shames him publicly? What does he get out of everyone thinking his family are killers? In my opinion, in this instance, it's pretty easy to spot what doesn't belong here. Sometimes the person shouting the loudest about being a victim is actually the one being viciously volatile behind the curtain. And maybe it's time to expose this weak wizard of flaws. Thank you so much for watching, friends. I'll see you in the next one.